think that since she didn't have a voice for all this, and we all became the parents and the voice, and we chose not to quit. Somebody else chose to do something, we chose not to quit.
She was my first little girl, my first child. And I had her when I just turned 18, so my entire adult life has been being a father. And I'm glad that I was given that opportunity.
Do it. Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
More than 48 hours have passed, and 11-year-old Audrey Cunningham is still missing.
We're actively following leads, and so that's exactly what we're doing here now. We've got boats that are in the water, and we've also got dogs that are down there as well. Our hope is that with all the equipment that we're bringing in here, that we can bring her home safely.
Early on when I first got here, I said, I can guarantee one thing. Audrey is in a place that she did not choose to be. Somebody else made a choice.
Detectives in Polk County say they now have a person of interest. 42-year-old Don Stephen McDougal.
He was supposed to be taken into the dropping off at the bus stop, and we do feel at this point that he was the last person who seen Audrey.
I was actually at my office, and I was kind of following the case a little bit and everything, and then we got the call, and they just wanted foot searches and stuff, and I brought my boat.
What told you inside? I gotta search right here. What was calling you here?
A Texas Ranger actually brought the suspect down here one time after these clothes were found, and it was parked over by the boat ramp. And that ranger said, "Did you put her in this water?" And he said, "Well, she might be there."
He said that?
Yeah. He said, "Well, she might be there." It's kind of halfway playing games and stuff. At that moment, when the clothes were found, we knew something had happened to her, of course. But we was wondering if he just brought her out here and raped her and threw her clothes, but how the clothes were tied up in that tent and stuff, it was like, what in the hell is this all about? The last thing I thought was that she was going to be tied off and weighted down. I never, ever expected that. So we had several boats and even a helicopter and stuff. And God, we did so much this river for miles and miles and miles. And then I decided I'm going to concentrate right here. Because without her floating and being found, it's like, let's start from point A. And point A was right here. And again, there was a lot of luck. There was a lot of luck.
This is a location of interest. We are bringing in divers as well. Again, this is all an effort to uncover additional leads.
And when I got that one image, it's like, oh my God, that's her. That is her. And I showed that to some of the divers, that image, and they said, no. I got with the Texas Rangers. I showed them. I said, listen, I'm positive I do enough to sonar. I'm positive that is our little girl right there. And then again, that Monday they dove on it and couldn't get to it. So then they made a choice of closing the dam, and the best choice they ever made. So the water went down, and then that Tuesday they went and dove, and they located her. And I was in the hospital, and when I got the call that they found her, and it was like, yes.
Where was she at?
She was just on the other side of this metal, like on all this steel down there.
Have you ever taken anybody here to show where she was found?
No, no, this is a first. Yeah, this is a first. It's unbelievable coming back here and looking at this again and really now digesting the whole search effort.
This time, I sadly announced that Audrey's body was located at the Trinity River on the U.S. Highway 59. As a result of today's developments, I will discontinue the Amber Alert for Audrey.
He had been in prison, and we knew all about that. And we checked the registry, there was nothing there. So we agreed to help him. And then, 2 years later, this tragedy happens. And we don't understand it because Audrey offered him nothing but kindness.
It's probably the most difficult thing to comprehend.
Yes.
She didn't care what you looked like. You could have tattoos. You could be scared. You and I could be scared half to death of somebody. And she'd walk up and say, "Hi, I'm Audrey. How are you?" She was non-judgmental. We're raised into fearing a certain look. And that's the thing, is everybody looks at the exterior of somebody and makes that judgment. And I'm guilty too. She didn't.
Hello. I'm trying to slide.
I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes it's, I still have my son, so I have to be strong and I have to keep going and act like nothing's even happening. And at the same time, my whole world is completely different. Some days it feels like everything's moving way too fast, and other days everything's just too slow, but nothing's ever right.
She was just full of spirit. And that's probably the biggest tragedy, is that her light she had around her is gone.
It's simple. He's a child killer. He is a coward. That's why he can only look at his feet. He can't look at himself. He can't look at anybody else. He's a coward. He knows he's a coward.
On a person like that, I don't think there's any words that could be said to a person like that would even register in their head. So, the best thing is just walk away and keep your damn mouth shut. Because you can't say, "Man, why'd you do this?" And everybody, including me, we got all the questions and we want to answer. But you know what? There's not one answer we could ever get that's going to be satisfied. If they tell 100% the truth, it still doesn't make any sense.
That was chapter 1. Chapter 2 just closed recently when, and I'm not going to use his name, the perpetrator, he pled guilty and agreed to life in prison without the possibility of parole or appeal. So he's taken responsibility for it. But the hurt doesn't go away. It's going to take us a while to forgive him.
It is about making sure that this doesn't happen again.
We've started a nonprofit called Justice for Audrey. And we want to make sure that if we help just one other child avoid this kind of a sexual predator, we will have honored her name. And so we're blessed to meet Andy Kahn with Crime Stoppers, and he said he would love to help us bring to the Texas legislature Audrey's Law, which is designed to help close the loophole that we missed. It's a loophole that doesn't require sexual offenders who plea bargain down to a lesser charge to have to register in the sex offender program.
Basically, the gist of the bill is anyone that's convicted of an offense in which there's a sexual element like a child grooming, which is what State Representative Ashby has filed, will be now required to register as a sex offender. But the important thing is, what can we do to prevent this from happening in the future and keep more Audrey Cunninghams from happening? And passing this law, Audrey's Law, will do that.
It should have been common sense that this shouldn't, you know, even if it's enticing a child or grooming a child, you are a sexual predator and you should be on that list.
You know, this loophole failed her, it failed Audrey. God knows how many other kids it's failing or has failed, you know.
The goal is for Audrey's Law not just to be here in Texas. You want to take it across the country?
Once we have it passed in Texas, we want to take a look at other states to see if there is a deficiency there. I don't know how the sex offender registry works across the country yet. If there's any other states that have loopholes, we would be willing to work through Crime Stoppers to get laws passed in those states.
As a parent, you can't be more proud of what your child does and what they achieve in life. I can only imagine, albeit, you know, only 11 years old, the impact that she's going to have on lives across Texas and eventually, hopefully, across the country. I can only imagine that you're incredibly proud.
I've always been incredibly proud of my daughter.
My biggest thing is so many people came together, so many people showed love for a child that some of them knew, some of them didn't.
And in Audrey's name, if we can help save one child, it's worth it.
Easily. With one law change, one simple rule change.
Your story went around the world. You know, people from around the world were invested in Audrey and wanting her so badly to come home safe.
It's a feeling you can't match. There's no words, you know. It shows that God's still out there, and a lot of people, it shows that people still care. You know, it shows that every bit of what Audrey stood for is still in this world.
Also, we were looking at the community. It's about healing for our community.
Her legacy began the day that this community pulled together.
Well, I remember exactly like yesterday. Exactly like yesterday. Exactly. No, this is one of them that when I drive over this bridge and go to another searcher, I'm going somewhere. I mean, it hits me, and I kind of get a little tear in my eye and I get a little smile on my face. A year later, and if I'm still alive 10 years from now, it'll still be the same. It'll still be the same. Yep. It'll still be the same.
What's it like standing here looking out at this river now? I mean, it's so calm, it's so peaceful.
You know, there's a little bit of comfort still. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of sadness knowing what she went through and being put here. But again, there's some comfort knowing at least she was found. And she never would have been. She never would have been to this day. So there would have always been questions and, you know, did they have enough on the suspect at that time? And so, you know, it all played out, I guess, exactly how God wanted it to play out. We was just that small little part. I didn't pick Texas experts. I think they picked me because I remember when my daughter Laura disappeared and the police said she was a runaway and we could get no help, none, zero. And going through 17 months before her body was accidentally found. And I remember every minute of that 17 months of helplessness and hopelessness and fear. And you know, after Laura's body was found, I just made a promise to God and Laura I could never leave a family alone. And because I know what that felt like. When Audrey's body was actually located, I said, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Because if it wouldn't be for her disappearance and her death, I sure the hell wouldn't be doing this. So again, I think God had a different plan for me than I had, and I think about Laura every day and miss her, and nobody will replace her. But because of that, we was part of finding Audrey.
I know agencies from near and far did everything they could, and they at least brought her home.
The family of Audrey Cunningham fighting back tears this morning. The 11-year-old killer agreed to a plea deal.
Don Stephen McDougal will spend the rest of his life in prison without the opportunity for parole. He pleaded guilty today. It was the first time he admitted to the brutal murder of Audrey.
KPRC 2's Gage Golding was the only reporter in the courtroom and has much more from today's emotional hearing.
It was quiet. Don Stephen McDougal not saying anything other than responding to the judge's questions. He had a freshly shaven bald head, a groomed goatee, wearing a jumpsuit and shackles. But not once did he turn around to look at Audrey's family, not once acknowledging the people who took him in when he needed a home most and who he devastated when he killed Audrey nearly a year ago.
Because we were being Christians when we took him into our house.
It's a decision that Philip and Tabitha Munch wish they could go back in reverse. The grandparents of Audrey Cunningham taking McDougal in, buying into the story that he was trying to change his life.
We are Christians, and we believe in heaven and hell. We believe that Audrey is in heaven, and he's going to burn in hell for what he did. We believe in that final justice.
Our cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom, but we were. McDougal not once turning around to acknowledge Audrey's family.
Satan can't look good in the eye. No evil can look good in the eye.
Prosecutors saying this is the most severe punishment possible. McDougal's intellectual and developmental disabilities, not allowing the death penalty under state law.
This resolution ensures that Don Stephen McDougal is being punished to the fullest extent.
This actually eases the pain of going through a trial with him, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Their goal now focused on changing the law that let McDougal plead down from previous crimes, allowing him not to register as a sex offender.
Well, our hope is the state legislature will pass what we're calling Audrey's Law. We are going to be working to close that loophole. That's all we can do to honor Audrey and give Audrey some real justice, is that her life will have meaning.
For the first time, we heard from Audrey's dad, Josh. He told McDougal in front of the entire courtroom, quote, "She gave my family purpose and you stole that from me. I hope you have a very short life sentence." Audrey's grandmother looking at McDougal and saying, "I hope you rot in hell." McDougal didn't lift his head to any of those words. In the newsroom, I'm Gage Golding, KPRC.